Welcome to the Habits and Hustle Podcast, a podcast that uncovers the rituals, unspoken habits, and mindsets of extraordinary people. A podcast powered by Habit Nest. Now here's your host, Jennifer Cohen.
So I had the extreme pleasure to sit down with Erika Nardini a little while back. For those of you who don't know who Erika is, she is the CEO of Barstool Sports. Barstool Sports is, no joke, probably the fastest growing lifestyle brand there is. It's a digital media juggernaut. And she's just so impressive and such a badass. Her background and what she's doing now for Barstools is bar none, excuse the pun. You really should listen to this podcast if you want to hear some great valuable tips and just overall business info from someone who is real, authentic, and will tell you exactly how it is. Stay tuned.
So Dave Portnoy founded Barstool Sports in 2004 in Boston. Awesome. He's just brilliant. And he built it by himself. He says, and we now say a lot, brick by brick. He had no funding. He had no help. He had no resources. But what he had was a really strong point of view. He had something to say. He was so funny. He was incredibly creative. He got really good, smart people to make content with him. And he did that. And I think it grew to be something, he is a consummate promoter. He's the single best promoter I've ever met. And he just, hand by hand, day by day, inch by inch, built this huge brand that in 2016 was, arguably the single most influential brand in Massachusetts for young guys who like sports, who like gambling, who, were on the internet. And he took a majority stake or gave the Chernin Group a majority stake in 2016. I think they valued the company at $12.5 million. And then I joined, fairly shortly thereafter, and we've just been at it ever since.
Wow. Okay. So before I even get into your whole thing, what was his background even to think that this would work, besides being a great promoter? I
don't think he had any assurance it would work. He was a sales guy.
He was just like some guy just selling.
Yeah, he had a corporate job. He hated it. He was like, this sucks. I think he was probably always very funny. Was always very funny. He's funny is funny.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
You either have
you don't go to school for funny.
Yeah, you don't go to school for funny. You either have it or you don't. He had it. And what he had was a crazy work ethic.
Wow.
Crazy work ethic.
And so he was building this literally brick by brick. So Chernin comes in. Now you were at AOL as a CMO, right? Chief Marketing Officer?
I had left. So yes, so I was the CMO of AOL. I left. I had worked for a long time to get that job. And when I had it, I realized, I don't really want to be a CMO anymore. And I left to join a company in music and to help found a company in music called Backstage. And the whole premise of Backstage was that music artists should be able to connect to their fans directly. So one of the things that's happening in the internet is that all of the money, all of the data, all of the time spent, all of the eyeballs are going to Facebook and Google, essentially. And there is nothing left over for anyone else. And they don't share the data. They don't share the money. They don't share the fans. But those companies are built on the back of creators and people like Dave or people, like Justin Bieber or Ariana Grande or Coldplay or any artist. And the whole premise of Backstage was that artists should be able to go direct to consumer. They should be able to know who their fans are. They should be able to have a long-term relationship with those fans. They should get compensated for all of the time spent and engagement that they're creating on those platforms and elsewhere. And that they should be able to create, incremental long-term revenue streams for themselves by virtue of the content they're creating, the attention they're bringing. So that was really the premise of Backstage. And I loved it. It was an awesome experience. I was on a plane for the majority of it between Los Angeles and New York. Really good learning. Like I learned a tremendous amount. And a lot of what in my head, I modeled it on was Barstool Sports, because I was a big Patriots fan, and I lived in Boston for 10 years. I lived in Boston when Dave created it. And I remember my girlfriends and I would literally get Barstool Sports at the T station in Boston, because we'd be like hungover on the train and just like looking to distract ourselves because we hated our jobs. And
so you were a fan, basically.
Huge fan. But Dave was really smart. Dave would write a blog about Tom Brady and Roger Goodell and Deflategate. And then at the bottom of it, he was so smart, he created iconic t-shirts, essentially, that were funny and they meant something. And at the bottom of every article was an ad for the t-shirts. And I remember one Saturday morning, I think it was August 14th, 2015, or probably 2015, I guess. I read a huge blog by Dave, really long blog. And at the bottom of it was a free Brady t-shirt ad. And I bought 5 t-shirts. And I was like, this is it. Like, I read something, I felt something. Then I want to be something. I want to be part of what the message is. And in this case, it was free Tom Brady. And that was, Dave was really brilliant about that. He did that from the second he created Barstool. And I felt like that's what music artists should be doing. I think influencers should be doing that. You should be doing that. Like, anyone, you don't need a big company anymore to be something.
Right.
And I think that's so awesome.
I know. I think that people, what they do is they don't have the confidence to do it on their own, right? So they feel if they leverage a big brand or piggyback off a big brand. And I think you're right, because a lot of times when I've done that so many times, because with a lot of stuff I've done, and it's actually backfired, right? And, because once you actually go out on your own, there's so many other opportunities that come from that. And it's all about like going out there and being doing it.
And it's so terrifying. I mean, I feel like I've loved my career. I've worked my ass off for 20 plus years, but I was way too safe. I was way too corporate. Like I didn't break out, and now I have, because I took a massive jump to come to Barstool, and I had taken a less seismic change leaving AOL and going to Backstage or any of the other startups I've been a part of, but there really is something to like grabbing life by the balls and just going for it. But it's terrifying, and
it's terrifying. So what made you finally like take that leap?
I loved Barstool Sports, and I knew that no one else, or what I felt was that no one else saw just how big this thing was.
Really? So you actually had that gut feeling.
I knew it. I knew from the minute I met Dave just how big this could be. I thought he was awesome. I wanted to work with him. I would have taken the job for anything.
So how did it happen then? So I assumed because of the churning group and all that AOL, that's how you kind of got yourself kind of within the whole group, but to kind of get the opportunity.
No,
I know you beat out like 75 guys and all that.
They had done the Chernin. So when the Chernin Group invested in Barstool Sports, they, Mike Kearns, who was really, he was also quite visionary, and he saw what Barstool could be, and what frankly it was, which was incredibly, incredibly engaging. When you looked in 2016 at Google Analytics, and at the time it was the height of daily fantasy, you looked at time spent as measured by Google, and people were spending, I think, 45 minutes a day and visited on average 22 times a day, which is like gaming numbers. Those aren't media numbers. Like, those are gaming numbers. And the Chernin Group saw that, and they were smart. They hopped right on a plane. They went and met with Dave. They're good people. And they said, Dave, what would you want to do? And Dave was like, look, I would move everyone to New York. I would find someone to run this thing. I know content. I want total control of the content. And he's like, but I think that I need help in building a business. And they hired a recruiting firm. They interviewed a ton of people, all guys. Most of them, I'm sure, like had MBAs and worked in sports and like looked the part and had great jobs. And I'm sure they all, have awesome jobs now, I'm sure. But I think the thing with us is that, and the thing with Dave in particular, is that it's just all gut. And when we met, it was right.
Really?
Yeah, it was just right.
And so like from transitioning from a chief of marketing to like the CEO position, what are the qualities about you that kind of help you do that and be so successful with it?
I've worked really, really hard, and we have really done nothing but work for the last 3.5 years, truly. I think when I left AOL, I went to be the president and chief revenue officer of Backstage. So I was already moving out of marketing. Honestly, I brought every weapon I had in my arsenal to Barstool. Like, I'd worked at Microsoft, I'd worked at Yahoo, I'd worked in, I helped take a company called Demand Media public, which was based on Google.
Right.
I'd worked at a bunch of ad agencies. I worked at Fidelity. Like, I literally, whatever weapon I had, I was like, I'm going to use it for this thing.
Right.
And
it prepared you by doing so many different things.
There were so many different things. And it was drawing on different things, all the time. And mostly we just felt our way through it. Like, we really just felt our way. We just felt our way through it. We worked really hard. We created an environment that was creatively free. So, I describe it sometimes of like, I just wanted to bubble wrap the talent. There were 12 of them at the time. I wanted to bubble wrap that and build a business around them, hopefully without them even knowing.
Right.
Because I think when people start to be worried about the advertisers or worried about what Facebook thinks of their content, or it brings negativity and desire for approval from someone else. And I think that's really dangerous for a creative person. When you're looking for approval, it makes you change what you're making.
So how do you guys find your talent? How do you guys, what do you do? I want to know what you do every day to make this brand like it is. Besides,
I love it. Besides Big Cat propels himself.
Yeah.
And most of them propel themselves. Like, the difference with us is that if you go to a normal company, you go to a Bleacher Report, you go to ESPN, you go to Fox, you go to NBC, you go to Vice, you go wherever, it doesn't matter. You're going to have some person who's a business person or a producer or a production person say, I have an idea for a show, and I'm going to cast a pretty white woman, a person of color, and a white guy, and I'm going to have them sit at a desk, and this is what the show is going to be about, and this is how long it's going to be, and this is where it's going to fit, and here's the script, and then we're going to put the people in the places, and we're going to package something up and put it on the air. And when you look at traditional media, they don't have that much air. They have a limited amount of time. They have one schedule. We're a company that is going bananas every day because we don't know limit. We're from the internet. The internet doesn't have a beginning and an end. It doesn't have one lane. There's unlimited lanes on the internet. So the people who succeed here and the type of talent we create and the type of culture that we have are people who don't see limits almost in their creativity. We don't say, we've done this actually once. We had one instance where we had our first radio deal with SiriusXM, and the Sirius people were like, hey, maybe you should get some grownups, and maybe you should get some people who know what they're doing and have been on the radio before. Because I'd never done radio before. David never done radio before, really. So we were like, all right, well, I guess we'll do that. And what we found was that the people who came from traditional media couldn't operate in our culture because we don't do one thing at one time. We have people who, I'll give an example. I was talking to Riggs. Riggs is, when I got to Barstool, Riggs is from St. Louis. He went to Harvard, and he was the Harvard politics guy. He was a blogger. And this was in 2016. In 2020, Riggs has a top 3 golf podcast. He's created an amateur golf tour. He's created a whole line of merchandise. He hosts our #1 flagship radio show. Now, that wasn't because we sat down and said, Riggs, what's your 4-year plan? And where you going, Riggs? It just happened organically. And that's, if you look at, another example, we have these 2 really phenomenally talented women, and they have a show called Chicks in the Office, Rhea and Fran. We hired Rhea and Fran in 2016 as interns. They didn't know each other. Rhea was, I think, in nursing or dental school. Fran was also in college. Two different guys brought them in as their interns. Fran likes sports, Rhea not so much. We had a merchandise closet downstairs where we put all the boxes of merch that we were creating. And we had no studio space. We had outgrown our office already, and we had no place to film or shoot. And so we said, you know what? Actually, we didn't even say. These women just went down into the merch closet and they started to create a show called Chicks in the Office. And Chicks in the Office was what the Barstool guys would yell when a woman showed up, because there were no women when I got there. So they'd be like, Chicks in the Office. And everyone's like, that's so sexist. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. But these two women just chose it as their brand.
Yeah.
And that's I think what's awesome for women right now is they're choosing stereotypes and they're making them their own. So Rhea and Fran set about making a show. Created a 1-minute show every day on Instagram. It was awesome. They crushed it. They had graphics. They had an awesome producer, was a guy named Noah. And he and they built this juggernaut of a daily entertainment show, 0 production budget. They filmed it in a merchandise closet. They didn't ask permission. They just started doing it. And then we were like, hey, you guys are really on to something. Why don't you create a podcast? So they created a podcast. We said, why don't you do a radio show? And so they had a radio show. The day before they went on, actually think the day that they went on radio for the first time, they came up to me. I think Fran came up to me and was like, I've never been on the radio. I don't know how to do radio. Yeah. And I was like, well, I don't know how to do radio either. So why don't you just go in there? The mic is on and just start talking. And that's how we did it. And now they have another show on Snapchat called The Group Chat, and they're on fire. Rhea's part of our TikTok squad. So they've just organically really grown. And the thing that's been frustrating for me in the process is I remember getting in this long, involved fight with Snapchat because we wanted to have a Chicks in the Office show on Snapchat.
Yeah.
And the Snapchat guys were like, that's sexist to have a show called Chicks in the Office. You cannot have a show called Chicks in the Office. And so I was like, okay, so let me get this 100% straight, that you want me to go tell 2 women who created this show and who created the brand that they cannot use the brand that they created because it's sexist. Like, that's bullshit.
Right.
So
because they're scared. Snapchat guys were scared that it's going to backlash.
They're scared that somebody's going to be like, oh, Barstool Sports has a show called Chicks in the Office. Like, whatever. Like, and we'll get past that. And I don't care. I actually think it's like fine. But it's just funny. So I think that we've just organically grown and we've fought for ourselves every single step of the way. And we've held true. So I was like, okay, fine. We're not going to have a show on Snapchat. Like, we're not going to change the brand.
Right. Right.
So,
to accommodate that.
Okay, you don't want us on your air because 2 women creating, I can't think of something more sexist than telling women that their show that they created, they cannot use. Like, I just won't do that.
Right. And also, like I said, I think a lot of it's fear-based, because not necessarily because those 2 guys think that way, but they think,
they actually agreed. They were like, it's a great name of show. It's a great brand. I'm like, why wouldn't you want this brand? But they're afraid of what women will say about them for having a show called Chicks in the Office that 2 white men greenlit,
Exactly. So it would be like, there'd be too much backlash.
Yeah,
that's why every other brand or other company, to your point, is so scared of stepping that they don't step, and they're so apprehensive.
That's right. And then you're paralyzed.
And then you don't become you don't become like an actually organic brand that people care about because it's so white bread watered down, and that's why you're probably so that's why you guys are so successful.
It's cool. Thanks.
And, you're welcome. And so how do you normally, besides those girls, of course, who are were interns, how do you normally find talent?
On the internet. Always on the internet.
So what people are constantly...
people send us
shit all the time, I'm sure.
Out of control.
Right.
Yeah, thousands and thousands and thousands of DMs. We have really talented people at Barstool, and the single most valuable people are the people who understand how to watch the internet and to make content for the internet. And these guys and girls, they're just watching all the time what's popping.
Yeah.
And they see it, who's working, who's breaking through. We found this woman named Ellie Schnitt. And Ellie Schnitt is, she's maybe 22. I would say she's in her early 20s. She had graduated from college. She was a nanny. we started seeing her on Twitter. Our guys started seeing her on Twitter and we're like, there's something to this girl. There's something to this girl. And the reason they said that is she would tweet, and she was like the queen of sorority Twitter is how I would describe Ellie at the time. And she would tweet and it would have 15,000 likes. This in a matter of hours. Ellie was just electric on Twitter.
Wow.
They DM'd her and said, hey, like, we're Barstool Sports. Like, would you ever want to could we have you come into the office and meet us? And would you ever want to work here? And I think Ellie probably at the time, she was nannying. She probably was like, I'm going to have to get a real job so I can pay rent and move out of my parents' house or whatever in Chicago. And now she has a top podcast. She is just a breakthrough personality for us.
What's the podcast called? Is her name?
It's called Schnitt Talk.
Oh, I saw that on your network. Yeah. That's
cute.
A great name.
She's awesome. She's a great name.
That's a great
But
name.
like Ellie, I don't think 2 years ago would have been like, I'm going to have a podcast and be a personality at Barstool Sports, like ever.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. She's the best.
That's a great. So there's like, so how, what is, so that, is it just her talking like shit?
Yeah,
or
she has a co-host. Her co-host is a woman named Alana. We hired Alana as a graphics editor for the Snapchat show for the Chicks in the Office, which didn't actually end up getting made. So Alana had nothing to do. And so Ellie and Alana kind of hit it off. And then Alana became the co-host of Schnitt Talk.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
So, but that's like, you don't like, there was no plan. It was like they like each other. Alana doesn't have a lot to do right now. And let's put them together and see how the show goes.
That's
or
amazing.
They put themselves together. It wasn't even let's put them together. They were like, we want to do the show together. We're doing the show together.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
So it's funny.
That's a great name too.
Yeah, Schnitt Talk is a great name.
Wow. Okay, so basically you have people who are like basically finding these people who have already.
In addition to other jobs, like we don't have a talent development group at Barstool
like
Sports.
Nothing you do is like
nobody has
normal.
one job here. Like nobody has one job. So our social guys, in addition to posting all of our content, we have 800 social accounts. We post 500,000 pieces of content a year. Are looking for people on the internet because they're staring at their phones and they're on the internet all day.
Constantly. I mean, that's what people do now.
Yeah.
That's all they do,
that's
right?
all they do. Yeah.
So basically of all those areas, what would be what's the most popular part of Barstools?
It's hard because it's different. There's so many different parts. Like our social's really, really popular.
The pizza thing's very popular.
One Bite is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the single largest database of pizza in the world.
Who would have thought that would, like, I mean, it's
we're going to get into the food category. We don't even say we're in the food category. Dave Portnoy literally moved to New York City and was like, I love pizza. He's always loved pizza. He'd done maybe 3 pizza reviews. He's blindingly funny, like electrically funny. And there's something mesmerizing about watching this guy say he's going to take 1 bite of a piece of pizza and shovel like 17 bites in his mouth.
It's really is funny.
So pizza reviews are doing millions of views.
Yeah.
And we post that every single day of the week. So that's a juggernaut. Pardon my take's a juggernaut. Like we got a lot of juggernauts.
See, the thing is, I've also find like you would tell me, like once you already have traction, it's much easier to the momentum.
Once you have it, it's easier to maintain it.
What do people like? Not like you. I know you won't know. Maybe you don't know this, but like, how do people even like start that? Right? Because I mean, you need money to make money. You need momentum to get momentum. Right? Like,
I think that anyone can do what we. I think there's only one Barstool Sports. There's never going to be another Barstool Sports. The reason there's never going to be another Barstool Sports is because of Dave. So in the internet, when everyone like me was buying traffic, trading links, syndicating video, all this shit on the internet, which really amounted to a lot of numbers on slides for advertisers, but never converted to humans, Dave held everything.
Right.
He held it to himself. He held it to Barstool. So, and he knew, hey, you could say that I have 1,000, or you could say I have 10,000 hits or 50,000 views, but I know if I have 100 people, I can sell 100 t-shirts.
Right.
And I want to sell t-shirts. So 100 people matters more to me than a fictitious number in the thousands.
Absolutely.
And
it's a true, authentic engagement.
Completely. And also at that time, there wasn't as much competition and fragmentation. Like if you look in the 2000s, like Dave told me a story once about how he used to do the show called Chat Roulette, where he would just like talk to random people on the internet and on video. And he's so funny. But then the other things where he would be able to find a story and sit on it for a week. And now there's so much competition on the internet. You can't sit on anything for 15 minutes, let alone a week. So that's why there'll be never anything like Barstool, because he was able to build a really loyal, big brand in a time when there was less competition. And anyone who's creating something now, you're creating it in competition. And what I think is possible for people is that, like, if you have an idea and you have a point of view, we never had any money. When I got to Barstool Sports, I think at our like highest point in 2016, we had $2 million in the bank, which I'm sure to one person is a lot. If you look at, we were going up against ESPN that probably, I don't even know how much money they had in the bank, but it was way more than $2 million.
Well, it's part of Disney, so
totally.
It's like
but we just started to post all the time. We made content all the time. We shared opinion all the time. And so I think anyone can do this. I think you just have to have something to say. You have to believe in it. You have to be able to get through the hate on it, which is people are going to shit all over you. And you can't let that get to you. And then you have to be super consistent.
And also, like, I was curious, like when someone like comes in and buys a big chunk, even as part of your deal, then know that the actual content, they have no control of it, right? Like,
they don't control Penn National doesn't control Barstool
right,
Sports.
So you guys have all creative control.
We do.
That's part of the deal, I would imagine.
And that's what they want,
But
which is they don't know
exactly.
anything about running I don't know anything about running a casino. That would be like, you're not going to put me in charge of a casino. I would have zero idea what to do.
Well, you'd figure it out.
We could figure it out. They could probably figure out a media business too, but we are two separate companies today. We've taken their investment. The Penn National guys are awesome. They'll sit on our board. Yeah, we do.
You actually.
Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
But they, there are places where we'll have to evolve. Look, we've had to evolve a lot in the last 3.5 years. Like Me Too wasn't a thing in 2016. PC culture wasn't really a thing in 2016. Like the Trump election changed everything. And so we've had to evolve a lot. We're going to have to evolve more. Penn National is a publicly traded company. They are in a one of the most regulated spaces in the United States. We got to learn how to make content for that. And it's going to have rules that we've never had before and disclosures we didn't know about. So we're going to figure it out, but we're going to figure it out in our way.
Right. And then so I want to get back to you for a minute. So give me a day in the life. What do you do?
Okay. What do I do? I do a lot.
What time do you wake up?
I wake up at 7 a.m.
Okay. Always 7 a.m.?
Usually.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you still travel a ton?
Not as much.
Okay.
I have been traveling as of late, but not like I used to. So I get up at 7. I don't check my phone right away. Like I get dressed. I get out of my house. I walk to the train.
You don't eat breakfast or work out or meditate and all that other stuff
I don't
that
do
people
any
keep
of that
on
shit.
saying?
No, I remember being on a panel once and the question was successful people and what's your workout? And I was like, I'm usually had too much red wine the night before. I'm hungover, dehydrated, and I hate water. I'm dehydrated and tired. I love a large red eye coffee with a ton of cream in it. I'll nurse that until mid-afternoon. So I get to work. I am on my phone all the time.
So you get to work at what time then?
I get to work. It depends. On a day where early, I get to, unless I have something, I get to work. Best case scenario is 8:45.
Okay.
More likely, I get to work by 9:30.
Okay.
I work from the minute I get on the train. I just am always
you 2 hours
thinking.
to get to work?
I live far from work. It doesn't take me 2 hours, but from wake up to get to the office. Right. I have started walking. I now walk to the office from Grand Central Station, which is good for me.
That's exercise. So you do exercise.
Yeah, I do exercise. I play hockey.
You play hockey?
Yeah, I'm learning how to play hockey, which I love.
You're learning to play hockey.
In July,
That's unique.
Yeah, it's an awesome sport. I love it.
I'm Canadian. You're preaching to the converted.
I love that. I love hockey. So it's the best.
I love hockey too. I used to play floor hockey.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes. You could play hockey easily then.
Oh, I love hockey. I've never had anybody ever say to me, especially a girl, I'm taking up hockey. You know what I mean? Like it's always
taking
like
up hockey. I love it. I'm obsessed. Yeah, no, it's like tennis or golf.
Yoga.
I'm like, I have zero interest in yoga.
Me too. You and I could be friends.
Yeah, we could be friends. This is fun.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning.
This is good.
So then Are
you doing floor hockey or ice hockey?
No, ice hockey.
So are you learning how to actually skate?
Yes. I had never really skated before July of this past year.
See, that's super hard as an adult to learn.
It is, but it's really good for you.
Oh, it's amazing.
I think it actually has done like so much for me personally. It's at the beginning I was skating probably 4 times a week. And it was off getting ice, as you know, this isn't a problem in Canada, but it's a huge issue. And you can't get ice time, especially if you're not, on a team it's very competitive to get ice time. So I was skating at like 5 a.m. or more likely like 10:30 at night.
Wow.
Awesome coach. And I just like gritted my way through it, like figured it out. But it was the one the 1 hour of time every day or every time I skated that I could not use my phone. Mm-hmm. And you have to concentrate. It really hurts to fall on the ice. And it's hard because your brain, when you're an adult, I think it's harder to learn new things. Like you get more rigid, I think. And to learn something new, like how to do a crossover in hockey was so hard for me. Like I chipped away at that crossover for months. And it was really hard for me. Because I couldn't figure out my brain how to do it. And I would obsess about it. I'd be like on the train the next day and be like, shit, I should have really done this with my outside edge versus that. Like, so it's really opened up a lot for me where one, it's a very relaxing, it's not relaxing in the moment, but it's very calming. And then 2 is like, it's good for me to chew on something. Like I've been chewing on Barstool Sports now for 3.5 years. It's good to chew on something else.
Yeah.
So now I play in like a men's league
oh my God,
on Sunday nights. Like I play with a bunch of cops who are awesome. I love them.
This is amazing. And you have all the gear on?
Yeah, I have all the gear.
Because the gear is like the hard thing too.
It's the worst.
It's the worst. That's why a lot of people are like, the gear back on and off and you get sweaty in the gear.
Yeah, totally. You stink, like the gear stinks, my gloves stink.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a whole get up. It's not cute. You do not look cute when you're playing hockey. Like you look like you have like a big dump in your pants. And
yes, exactly.
Huge. Like it's not cute. But it's been awesome. When I started skating, I had with this guy, Mike Grinnell, who is the producer of Spit and Chicklets, which is the #1 hockey podcast, which is awesome. He gave me, his dad's a hockey coach. He gave me all his stuff from high school. So I had his like elbow pads from high school. I had like his chest protector, his shin guards.
I love that.
And
I can give you a bunch of stuff too.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then Bauer was like, do you want some stuff? And I was like, yes, please.
That is amazing. I would never have guessed that, especially also Americans. They don't, like hockey's not a big deal here. Forget about girl or even guy. That's big.
Becoming a bigger deal, but not.
Yeah, but it's not
like football. No, I agree.
Not even close. Yeah. Like I have a couple of friends, Canadians who live in LA, and like they go play hockey all the time, and they take their kids to play hockey, and I want to take my kids, but like it's like no one's like, there's like, what? Take your kid to hockey?
Totally, like soccer or basketball or something easier.
Something easier. Because like you said, also the time it takes because of the ice.
It's a pain in the ass.
It's a pain in the ass. But it's a great sport.
It is an awesome sport.
And it's so underrated here. I love that you do that.
Yeah, it's so fun. I love it. It's like the single best thing that I've done. Like it's awesome.
Awesome. Okay, so then what else? So besides
so then I'm like, I have a very tight calendar. I like to be meeting with people or doing something at all times. I do not like if I don't have a packed day where I'm moving stuff forward and meeting with people and making things happen, I get like, I don't like it.
Right.
I think that I like to think at night, or I like to think on my commute, or chew on things on the weekends, or like if I go for a run or something like that. But during the day, during the week. I want to make like as much I can humanly possibly make happen in a day.
That's amazing. So what do you work at? Like, give me an example. Are you doing like strategic partnerships?
I'll be meeting with, like, I say yes, like I say yes to really, I'll meet with most anyone.
Good.
Like,
so then
I always
people are going to call you all day now.
Yeah, probably, I don't know. But like, I'll want to meet with my team. I'll want to meet, I like to keep my hands in like what's happening here at this company. Like, what are we doing right? What do we have to fix? What are we doing wrong? Like we're at the Super Bowl. I woke up this morning at 6 and I had this panic because we have a huge party tonight. We have a huge live event. I haven't seen a lot in my email on it in the last like day and a half. So I'm like, all right, well, what are we doing? Like, do we have our shit together for tonight? So I'm like, all right, where are we on this? Where are we on this? Where are we on this? Which is probably annoying to people who work here, which I understand. Like, I can like crawl up your ass and sit there for a very long time. Like it's
right.
Which I realize people don't like. But I'm like, we need to do this. Like, we have we're in this hotel in Miami and we have, I don't know, like 1,500 t-shirts, sweatshirts, jackets, all this shit lying around all this hotel. And I'm like, I know what's going to happen. It's Friday today. On Saturday morning, everybody's like going to be hungover. They're going to like get up, get on their flight, and they're going to leave all of our crap all over this hotel. So, and I'm like, we can't do that. Right. So like, who's doing what? So it's anything from like, what are we doing really tactically like that to, hey, what's the future of local sports radio? And, we have taken a big investment from a company in the sports betting space. Sports betting is going to be legalized on a state-by-state basis. I want to be the brand when, something happens in Michigan and sports betting becomes legal in Michigan. Who are our Michigan guys? Like, what are we doing that covers Michigan sports? Now, Dave's from Michigan. Dave went to Michigan, so we've got a natural advantage there. But how do we think about what we're doing knowing what's changing in the world? Like another example is, Instagram is really changing. Like Instagram, what works on Instagram, what Instagram likes, what Facebook likes, changes all the time. And so I spend a lot of time one, I want to meet with Instagram. Two, I want to meet with our crew that works on Instagram because I think they know more than sometimes the Instagram people do. Then I want to think about like, okay, so this is what's happening on Instagram. What does that mean for Barstool Sports? Like, what's that mean for us? Like, should we spend more time there? Should we spend less time there? Should we spend more time on TikTok?
Right.
Like, what should we be doing, understanding what's happening everywhere else?
Right. So you do a lot of macro, but you do a lot of micro.
Yeah, totally. I'm all over the place.
You do both, but like a lot of CEOs they don't care about the minutia, right? And you do.
Yeah, I love minutia.
Yeah.
I love, like, one of the hardest things I always had as a manager was like, I just want to be next to the people doing the stuff. I wasn't ever good at the people who took all their team's work and packaged it up and then presented it to you in a way that they thought you wanted to see it. I hate that. I literally, what a fucking waste of time. Absolutely. So I'm like, I just want to talk to the person doing it and like, what do they know and what do they learn and what are they seeing? And like, so I'm more like that.
Like the detail.
I just want to understand, like, what are you seeing? Because it's like, I don't want you to tell me what you're seeing because you think in a way that you think I'm going to like it, or I don't like that. I think that means like, I'm not doing that person any justice or service. I'm not doing our company any service. But I think a lot of companies, frankly, work that way, where they spend so much time on the packaging of information about the company, about the industry, about the category for executives within that company. I think that's like such a colossal waste of time. The other thing is, I think a lot of CEOs, they only want to operate at like a quote unquote executive level. Like they don't want to be with the people.
Right.
And like, I want to be with people.
They're elitist is what it is.
Yeah. It's like, I remember our CRO is a woman named Deirdre Lester, and she's amazing. She worked at a bunch of companies, and one of her first things when she got here, I was like, how's it going? And she's like, God, you're like very like involved and understanding of the business and hands-on. And she's like, I've had 3 CEOs that like couldn't tell you what advertisers were working with or couldn't tell you, what the problems were in the sales org. So it's like, I just think you could be a better CEO if you understood what's happening on a ground level at your company.
Absolutely. So I was curious, what do you think of TikTok? Is TikTok now going to is Instagram not going to be obsolete, obviously, but do you know how like with Facebook, when all the old people went to Facebook, all the kids left and they went to Instagram. Now I feel like all the old people, when I say old, like not 10, are now on Instagram. Yeah. Are they all going to TikTok?
No, the old people are not going to go to TikTok.
Right. The people are
for now. TikTok's it. TikTok is awesome. I think they have, as a company, some regulatory issues in the US, like that it's from China, I think is an issue for a lot of people. There's a lot of probably very legitimate concern with that. They have some hurdles to jump through. As a consumer platform, it is breathtaking how fast they're growing. Just absolutely breathtaking. And I think what's happening is Facebook is exerting more control over Instagram. Facebook is making Instagram more like Facebook. The young people don't like that because young people don't like Facebook. At the same time, Instagram needs to monetize. So you're going to find, you probably see this now, like there's more ads. There's more ads. There's less content. I think Instagram is changing. I think the ways that they're changing are becoming more conservative. Mm-hmm. I think that TikTok is a platform that is extremely wild and free, and that's what youth likes.
Yeah, and that's why, so how much, are you guys now gearing mostly towards?
Not mostly, Instagram is a juggernaut of a platform. I don't mean to be, we love Instagram. We're on it all the time. We see it change, but it's also a really, really important platform for us. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Google, we're on Twitter,
everything.
We're on Snapchat, we're on everything, but we have eyes for TikTok.
Wow. Okay. TikTok. Because people are like, oh, Instagram. But for people like my generation, right?
For me, I'm like, I don't know. Wouldn't even know where I begin on TikTok.
Oh, God.
I'm not going to make a dance video. So that's out.
Besides doing a dance video, what do people even do? I'm like such an old person, I guess.
I think
what
it's
do they do on TikTok?
Snippets of your life. It's just the way, I was having an interesting conversation with Dave about it yesterday. His observation was that when you see a video on TikTok, there's always a moment where you kind of break the frame and it's a little imperfect. So it's like a very short snippet of what's happening, but something's imperfect.
Yes.
And there's always a glimpse. And
maybe that's why it's doing well, because again,
it's real. It's just weird.
It's like Barstool-esque in a way,
it's just
right?
a little weird. It's quirky.
It is quirky. And that's what I think what works. Because with Instagram, everyone's life is
it's so perfect. It's everyone's on vacation and
exactly.
And
the filters,
my family's so perfect. And TikTok is not that.
Oh, it's not at all. And I think once I think when it's smoothed out, like it has on Facebook and on Instagram, it becomes not passe, but not
you're
next
scrolling.
Exactly. Next. And so, okay, so then what is how do you work on the weekends? Do you work at night?
I work during the week. I work all the time, and I do not work on the weekends.
So what time do you get home at night?
I get home
because you have a family too.
Yep, I get home at 7:30, and then I hang out, and then I get back to work.
You go back to work,
or not in the office, but I'm on my phone
at night. Mm-hmm. So it's really basically your rule is just not on the weekend.
I don't work really on the weekends. I don't like to work on the weekends. I'm tired by the time the weekend shows up. I want to have a weekend.
Right.
I hated, when I worked at big companies, there was always the Sunday scaries where the emails would start flying at 7:45 on, and I was like, I fucking hate this. I just want to have my Sunday night.
Yeah.
So I don't like to do that. Now we often work on weekends because we've got a live event or a show or something. So when we're working on a weekend, you're working on a weekend. But if it's a random weekend in July, I'm at the beach.
Right. You are. Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. So you try, you actually take it off and you're able to kind of shut down your brain
definitely.
And not do it.
Yeah, definitely.
That's amazing. Okay. So can we talk really quickly about next steps for you?
Yeah.
And what you want to do?
Yeah.
Okay. So
what am I doing?
The floor is yours.
I'm going to do a little more of this. I'm flirting with a podcast, so I'd like to have a podcast.
What made you want to do a podcast?
I don't know that I would be a good podcaster. I also am, respectful that we have a company full of brilliant podcasters. I think the worst thing is like people who shouldn't be content people trying to be content people. But one of the things that's been really frustrating for me personally at Barstool is I just rarely I don't always have an interview or a conversation like this. Like, you're very open, you're curious, you want to learn, like you want to share. Like, most times when I do an interview, it's my words are in the context of somebody else's opinion. And my words are in the context of somebody else's opinion on the company that I run, the brand that has been around since 2003, or their opinion of a person who's really important to me, which is Dave and the founder, or our personalities or our people. So there's all sorts of judgment, agenda, perspective. And look, I respect all that. I'm like all in. Media should be media. People should say what they want to say. But what's been hard for me is that I haven't been able to tell my story, our story, or us story in a way that gives me the creative freedom to do it, like, or the space to do it. So I'm working on a podcast. You
heard it here first.
Yeah, heard it here first. I wasn't going to share. Like, it's not ready yet. And what it's about is that you can be yourself and be successful. I want to interview regular people in their jobs, in what they're doing, what makes them tick, like what's funny, what's not funny, what's horrible, what's not horrible, what have they learned, what have they done. We'll do a ton of stuff like that. Like, we are creating a part of it's called The Assistants, and it's just stories from assistants, which I have to be honest with you, are the best stories in a company. An assistant knows everything about a company.
I couldn't agree more.
So we'll do things like that, and then
I know who's going to be on there. Your cute assistant over there.
Yeah, she is on it. She's my co-host.
Is she your co-host?
She's my co-host. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
The Assistants was her idea. So, like, that's cool. Like, we're going to do that.
That's amazing.
I'm doing an episode on women's hockey. So that's a big one, which will be cool.
That's a good one.
So we'll do all sorts of things. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't really know what it's going to be like, but I feel like I have this moment in time and this platform that makes great content. And if I can put something on there that finds an audience, great, we'll keep it. If I don't, I'll kill it. Like, so that's
right.
That.
And like, fortunately, you have a great you have a great platform to try it out on,
try.
Right?
Like, we try everything around here. So maybe I should do that too.
Anything you do though, like Barstool, it turns to gold. Like that, your podcast platform is great. Is there one podcast on there that is not?
Oh yeah,
like
we print it all the time. Yes, we fail every day. Like, I think that's the other thing is that people think like, oh, we like touch it and it's gold. Now, a lot of times we strike gold because I think we understand the internet better than anybody. And we have really supremely crazy talented people. And I think if you have crazy talented people who are smart and hungry and given the space to create, like anything can happen. But we have a lot of bombs. Like, we have a lot of dogs around. Like, things don't work all the time. Podcasts, videos, radio shows, blogs, business ideas, t-shirt ideas, partnerships. So, we just we're pretty blunt. So we're, if it doesn't work,
you cut it.
We cut it. Yeah.
And I guess people only see the success, right? Like anything in life,
you never see the failure. And, frankly, I think people see failure in us more than you see in other places because we don't try to hide failure. And we're not shy about it. But yeah, you only see the success. Like, when I go talk to a media outlet, I'm not like, oh, Jesus, we had 3 really shitty podcasts.
Exactly. This was a bomb.
Yes, this was a bomb. That sucked. But there are things like, we had a show on ESPN that lasted one night. It was very controversial. The cancellation was very controversial. Like, that was a fuck up. We shouldn't have done that. Now, I don't regret it. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change what came out of it. It propelled us to a whole new place. It catalyzed us doing a whole lot of things, but that's just what life is.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think that's true. Like I always say, it looks like to the outside, you're successul with everything you guys touch, right?
Yeah, but people don't see like every day the grind.
Yeah. Exactly, the grind. And I feel like even with your success and the company's success, it's still a grind.
It's a grind every single day. I was up at 6 a.m. at working by 6:45 this morning.
See, and I think that that's like a really good message also, that people think that once you hit a certain level of success.
Yeah, you like coast.
Yeah.
Like if we coast, we're fucked.
You're
fucked.
fucked.
I have zero interest in that.
You're not able to, like no one's able to coast because it's always like, what's next? What's next? What's next?
Best people are always looking next.
Absolutely. Well, you've been a delight.
Thank you so much. This is fun.
This was great. Thank you so much for coming
You're
on.
welcome.
Because I know you're slammed here. We're at the Super Bowl, like you're saying, and you have a party like in a few hours.
Yep.
And
it's cool.
It's been amazing meeting you
so
finally.
Much. I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
Oh, believe me, come on again.
All right, I will.
Good luck on your podcast.
Okay,
I'm going to come on your podcast.
Yeah, you are going to come on my podcast.
Okay, good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Tell everyone. Oh, you don't do social media like for yourself, do you?
Oh yeah, I'm all over it. Am I all over social media?
Well, you do Twitter.
I do Twitter. I have an Instagram.
Okay, just look at okay, she's the CEO of Barstool, Erika Nardini. If you want to follow her, you know how to do it.
Yeah, you can find me.
You can find you.
Yeah,
exactly. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Habits and hustle, time to get it rolling. Stay up on the grind, don't stop, keep it going. Habits and hustle, from nothing into something. All out, hosted by Jennifer Cohen. Visionaries, tune in, you can get to know them. Be inspired, this is your moment. Excuses, we ain't having that. The Habits and Hustle podcast, powered by Habit Nest.